सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्तन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। कर्तुराज्ञया प्राप्यते फलम् कर्म किं परं कर्म तज्जडम्। कृतिमहो दधौ पतनकारणम् फलं शाश्वतं गतिनिरोधकम्। ईश्वरार्पितं नेच्छया कृतं चित्तशोधकं मुक्तिसाधकम्। ईश्वरार्पितं न इच्छया कृतं इच्छया न कृतं। An action performed Ishwararpitam in the spirit of Arpanam, spirit of offering to Ishvara, offering to the Lord. Na ichchaya kritam, not done by a desire, a self-centered desire, not prompted by our raga and dvesha. Yesterday we discussed how raga and dveshas, attachment and aversion, arise from a need of the self. There's a need for me to be pleased with myself, to be happy with myself. That's a basic need. And whatever makes me pleased with myself becomes an object of like. Whatever creates in me a sense of embarrassment, frustration, displeasure becomes an object of dislike. This is at the level of ego. There are other raga dveshas also. For example, our sense organs have a natural affinity for sense objects, sense pleasures. Therefore, the objects of pleasure, or what I look upon as the means of happiness, since I love happiness, therefore, what I perceive as the means of happiness also becomes an object of like. I have a dislike for unhappiness, so whatever I perceive as a means or object of unhappiness becomes an object of dislike. So a basic need of happiness and so love for happiness, aversion for unhappiness. It is natural that I love happiness because happiness happens to be my nature. And everything always is comfortable with its nature. I am comfortable being happy, I cannot be comfortable being unhappy. Thus, as long as ignorance is, so long raga-dveshas, attachment aversions will remain. And they are representatives of all the impulses such as anger, jealousy, etc., etc. All those negative impulses are all represented by raga and dvesha. Tayor navashamagache, Lord Krishna says that do not come under the sway of these impulses. Contain those impulses or diffuse those impulses. How do you do that? By deliberately planting an opposite of what is impulsive. By being deliberate. So a person controlled by raga dveshas, likes and dislikes is an impulsive person. Then solution is to be a deliberate person. So deliberately fake it till you make it. Be a deliberate person. It is a value, only a deliberate person is able to benefit from the free will. An impulsive person has as well lost the free will because he is not deciding, it is his impulse that decides what he or she does. So being deliberate is the first thing. And when you are deliberate, then deliberately entertain this attitude that may I be a contributor. May enjoy the privilege of giving. It's a privilege to give, really. It's a beggar who always wants to grab and receive, that from the beggar I want to turn into a giver. But Swami, what do I have to give? Now, everybody may or may not have the material means to give, meaning that everybody may not have money to give, may not have, but you still can give. Our wealth is not only confined to the material or worldly wealth, we have a lot of inner wealth. We have a large storehouse of kindness, compassion, goodness, that we have. Thus, under every situation, try to be a kind person. As our Swami says, how can I be useful to the person? Have that attitude of being useful, being available. And consider it as your privilege, not that you're obliging somebody, it's a privilege to be kind, it's a privilege to be available, helpful. In fact, we should thank the other person has given us an opportunity to exercise or to invoke the kind self. So, invoke the goodness. There is plenty of goodness within me, and may I use every occasion or every interaction as an opportunity to invoke the goodness or the good self that I am. Because both these tendencies are there within ourselves. As the Bhagavad Gita says, there are the divine tendencies as well as the demoniac tendencies. Thus, intrinsically, each one of us is a kind, loving, compassionate person. That's what we truly are. But because of ignorance, not knowing what is good for us and what is helpful to us and what is hurtful to us, we have inadvertently allowed the hurtful tendencies also to enter our mind. And thus, some tendency of violence, anger, dambho, darpo, vimanasya, krodha, parusyamevacha, dambha, pretension, darpa, pride, arrogance. Abhiman also is pride. Dambho, darpa, krodha, anger, parushyam, so being parusha, meaning being rough, being hard, being hurtful. So inadvertently we also acquire these negative tendencies in course of our countless births. As a child also, very often it becomes necessary to protect myself from the people who are bigger and stronger than me around, and therefore I use anger, I scream, I try to create so I scream, I throw tantrums to protect myself. And I thought it was convenient to do that, so then it becomes a habit. Because of insecurity, I always felt that I should have more and more. That's how greed was encouraged. So inadvertently, I have encouraged these tendencies and now they have got hold of me. But they are not our nature. They are intruders. They are not our nature. That's a saving grace. That anger or greed or jealousy, even though we may be displaying them, they are not our nature, they are intruders and therefore they can be removed. Like a piece of sandalwood, which is fragrant by nature. What if sandalwood left in water for a few days gets rotted and starts stinking, its outer surface starts stinking? But still, in the core, the sandalwood is fragrant. The stink is an intruder, is incidental, but fragrance is inherent. So all you need to is rub that sandalwood against a stone, the incidental will be removed, and the what is inherent will surface, will become manifest. So we need to rub. We are like the sandalwood, fragrant in nature, but now and then stinking with anger and with jealousy. So we have to rub ourselves, and that's karma yoga, that's the attitude. Deliberately try to entertain the attitude of being a giver. Consider it a privilege that I can give, that somebody is there to receive. It's not easy to give because there is maybe nobody to receive. One day I invited somebody from a certain group of people and I said, we want to make a donation. He says, we have no need for donation, he says, No. So what can you do? We have a lot of money in our trust, so we don't need donation. That somebody needs, and that you have something to offer what other person needs is a great thing. One should consider oneself fortunate that you can do a little favor, and we may not have the occasion to do big things, but small things we can always do. A kind word, a little smile, a little affectionate gesture, sometimes that also is quite good. But basically, a value for being a contributor, a value for that it is my privilege that I have been given all these things. Even if I don't have money, it's not that people who are wealthy alone are serving, it's not so. Many ordinary people with very limited means or no means are also doing a lot of work. I had been to one of the towns, Porbandar, when there were a series of talks, and the man was brought to me, an old man. At one point in his life, he thought that there was a great need, that there was a local hospital, and the patients, the poor patients come, and the relatives of patients also accompany him, and there's no place where they can go for their food, they can't even afford. So he once woke up at 3:30 in the morning and started cooking himself, khichdi and bhakri and some simple thing, and carried those big things, the hospital, and offer to these people. From then on, it caught up so much that it has become a big movement. He is just a simple person. So if you put our heart to it, I guess we can think of many things that we can do. It may not be what somebody else does, but this is a must. Otherwise there is no spirituality. Don't think that simply by understanding this, something has to be understood, something has to be done. So we need both of them. That's why karma yoga. Ishvararpitam nechyagutam chitta shodakam. This very attitude of giving or offering neutralizes ragadveshas, because these ragadveshas or attachment aversions are always beggars. A person acting out of impulse of ragadvesha always is a beggar or a grabber. So when we deliberately entertain the attitude of giving, then ragadveshas get neutralized. Chitta shodakam. Karma is not chitta shodakam as much as the attitude of being a contributor. That is a purifier of the mind. But you say karma has an important role to play, because karma or any action and every moment, every interaction is an action. Even when you are talking to somebody, whatever you are doing is always an action. And that action becomes an occasion to invoke the giver in us, to invoke the goodness in us. Just as when you turn the mala, the rosary, that bead is okay, it just becomes an occasion to remember God, that's all. Similarly, a karma becomes an occasion. So Lord Krishna says, Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam vidantatam swakarmana tamabhyarche siddhim vindati manava. Ishvararpitam. Who is Ishvara? So Lord Krishna tells us what's the nature of Ishvara. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam. The one from whom the whole universe has emerged, and one who prompts all the activities everywhere. And one who pervades everything, one who is the self of all, one who is the inner control as antaryami. Offer swakarmanatma abhyarcha, worshipping with one's karma, siddhim vindati manavaha, a human being attains perfection. And so, karma we have to do. As long as ragadveshas are there, they will compel us to do something. And so, ragadveshas have to be expressed. The force or energy that ragadveshas have to be expressed. Let them be channelized. They can be channelized in a hurtful way, they can be channelized in a helpful way. And that's what is said here. Ishvarapidam nityakritam chitta shodakam mukti sadhakam. This chitta shodhanam, this purification of mind has an important role to play in mukti or moksha or liberation. Because what is liberation is discovering the fact that I was always liberated. Liberation is not achieving something new. Vedanta tells us that it is the achievement of what is already achieved. Praptasya praptihi. My own mind should tell that I am free. That's really, my mind is right now telling that I am bound, I am this, I am limited, I am inadequate, I am miserable. The same mind should start telling me. That's all. So as long as the mind is impure, meaning under the influence of ragadveshas, it keeps telling me, I am inadequate, I am unhappy. As ragadveshas go, his mind becomes like a clean body of water. A body of water such as a pond or a lake. When it is unclean, then it is not transparent. Therefore, we cannot clearly see or cannot see at all what is at the bottom. Similarly, when the mind is riddled with raga dveshas, impurities, then we cannot see what is at the bottom of the mind, which is a self, which is happiness, ananda. So just as we remove the dirt from the water, water becomes more and more transparent. When all the dirt is removed, it becomes a clean, transparent body which reveals clearly what is at the bottom. But even a little bit of removal of dirt reveals something, no doubt, Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. It is not that you will become happy someday. Every moment you become happy. Every moment you will go out of your way and do something you are happy. Because that offering, as we said, there is a cosmic yajna or cosmic sacrifice or cosmic offering going on. Therefore, whenever we act in that spirit, we are in harmony with that order. And therefore, when there is harmony, there is happiness. On the other hand, when we act in a self-centered way, we are violating that harmony. Therefore, it creates unhappiness. So any small act performed in harmony makes you happy right then. It's what we call drishtaphala or immediate result. And it all adds up. Little things add up. Chitta shodhakam, every such act of contribution or offering becomes a purifier. Mukti sadhakam, then you can clearly see yourself as an adequate being. Then the teaching becomes very real. As our Swamiji says, then the teaching becomes very real. Otherwise, with raga dvesha inside, the teaching is not effective. Otherwise, these words of the scriptures are pramanam. Pramanam means valid means of knowledge. So when I am told you are Brahman, I should see that fact because that is called pramanam. The eyes are a pramanam, the valid means of knowledge for revealing colors and forms. So when I open the eyes and when a color is in front, I see that. That doesn't require any effort on my part because knowledge automatically takes place. So here, Atma is already there. My mind is there. And when the statement is told to me, then that statement should right away make the sense to me. But it does not make, because what we need along with statement is a mind that is cooperative. Make the mind your friend. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuhu atmanaha. Lord Krishna says that your mind can be your friend, your well-wisher, or something that is upakaraka, something which is helpful to you. Mind can become a blessing, it can become a curse. In that sense, this attitude or karma yoga, Lord Krishna also calls it buddhi yoga. Our Swami says karma yoga is the yoga of attitude. Attitude towards action in this particular case. By bringing about the inner purification, it makes mind prepared for the knowledge. In that sense, indirectly, karma yoga becomes a means for moksha. Knowledge is the direct means, no doubt about that. Seeing this fact about myself that I am free, I am limitless, is the knowledge, and that is what makes me free in the true sense. But even karma yoga, as purification of mind takes place, I keep discovering that fact. I keep feeling free. So freedom also comes at every step. What binds me? Nothing but raga dvesha, impulses bind me, that's all. What else is bondage? Atma cannot be bound. What makes me... So bondage is merely a notion or a feeling rather than a reality about me. And what causes that feeling? These impulses cause a feeling that I am helpless. as the impulses get removed, I feel not helpless, I feel free to that extent. So moksha also is a process, understand? Not that it will happen one day all of a sudden. Therefore, karma yoga is a spiritual sadhana, and the extent to which we adopt that, to that extent, we keep on discovering freedom, which culminates into moksha, the total freedom. So, mukti sadhakam. This is making an offering to Ishvara. It's a tall order, not an easy thing. We have to be alert. Remind ourselves, may the Lord be pleased by this action. But usually, while interacting with the world has an uncanny knack of pushing my buttons. That is what, assembly does to us. Both ways, it can push my buttons. And when buttons are pushed, I become a reactive person and not a deliberate. I cannot remain a deliberate person. Therefore, a need to create a situation where I can be a deliberate person, where my action can be offered to the Lord. So, what to do? Next verse tells us that we can create the situations where it is easy to remain deliberate, to remain a devotee. The karma yogi is a devotee. Swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. Worshipping him with my karma, one gets siddhi, perfection. So really karma yogi is a devotee of Lord. So when does karma become yoga? When karma is performed by a devotee, not by samsari. And therefore, we keep on invoking the devotee from ourselves, which becomes difficult in the heat of these activities in the world. Because our buttons are pushed. So we need to create a situation where our buttons are not pushed. In which case, it is relatively easier to invoke the devotee from within me, and that is what is subject matter of the next verse we are told here. Verse number 4. Kaya vāṅmana karyamuttamam Pujanam japas chintanam kramad. Kaya vāṅmana karyamuttamam Pujanam japah chintanam kramat. So create situations when a devotee from me can be invoked. I need a little comfortable situation. Somebody, Swamiji, it is difficult to function in a group. I am much more comfortable when I am at home, because nobody to push my buttons. And therefore, we have to create that kind of a corner in our day-to-day activities where we are in a situation where no buttons are pushed. That is called this worship of the Lord. Our Swamiji says that we are devotees, but we are part-time devotees. Become full-time devotees. And for that, specific acts must be performed to invoke the devotee from within me, so that slowly from part-time devotee I become a full-time devotee. For that, worship of the Lord. Of course, we are told that every action also can become a means of worship, but it may not be that easy. That of course we should try. But here, so one good thing about the Vedic culture Every culture also offers this opportunity. But there is one additional thing here, that's called pujanam, worshipping each Lord in a certain name and form. So those traditions who accept God as only formless, they do not have this advantage that Hinduism has, which looks upon God also with form. Formless of course He is, but in form also He is. Here the equation is ekameva dvitiyam. So Upanishad says, Sadeva Somya idamagrasit ekameva dvitiyam. Hey Somya, O good looking one, this universe of names and forms, before its creation was Sat, was existence, was Brahman, Satchidananda, one without a second. Non-dual. Meaning that this duality is nothing but non-duality. Then what happened? How did this duality come about? Then Upanishad tells us a katha. Katha means a story of how the universe got created. That this Sat, this Satchidananda, this Param Brahma, in the beginning of creation, so kamayata, he desired. Tadaikshata, it deliberated. So kamayata, tadaikshata, it saw, it deliberated. Bahusyam, prajayati, may I become many, may I be born. May I become many, understand this. Not someone else, he is not creating manyness. May I become many. Bahusyam, may I become many. What does it mean? That may I manifest as many? How can you become many? Prajaya, may I be born, may I assume different forms. That one non-dual principle thinks like this, deliberates like this, resolves like this. Satapotapyada satavastatva yadugam sarvam asrujata. He thus deliberated and then created all this. Meaning what? Became all of this, manifested himself as this universe of names and forms. This is what Upanishad teaches us. Tat suštva tadevanu pravishata. He created these names and forms and entered these names and forms. It's a story. But the moral of the story is what? What is Brahman. That's the moral of the story. How to communicate? These are the ways of communicating that. That's all. We may not take the story literally, but the lesson of the story is that what is Brahman. Tasruštva tadevanu pravishata. Having created this body-mind complex, he entered. Therefore, he is the one who is right now displaying himself as his jiva. The Shiva is displaying himself as jiva. Meaning that Ishvara, who in his true nature it transcends all names and forms. But as far as the Vyavaharik Satta is concerned, as far as objective reality is concerned, he alone is all these names and forms. He is in every name and form. So our Swamiji says that, therefore, we can worship Ishvara in any name and form because all names and forms are his names and forms. But it's difficult for us to worship in anything, because I know that a donkey also is nothing but Ishvara's name, but then it's difficult, to invoke that, looking at donkey somehow, that idea of Ishvara does not come in my mind. Or looking at this worldly thing, because of ragadvesha, not that there is no God there, because of my ragadveshas, I find it very difficult to see God in names and forms. Therefore, there has to be a name and form where I remain free from raga, which does not invoke my ragadveshas. The names and forms that are in front of me have some association with me. or because I have my own problems. Therefore, every name and form seems to trigger something inside. And that this is Bhagavan, that idea does not come. Not that this is not Ishvara, it's my problem, not Ishvara's problem. That I cannot see Ishvara in names and forms is my problem. I have to grow to a point where I can see Ishvara in all names and forms. To be able to do that, you create a specific name and form where it is easy to see Ishvara. So you create a form like that. So that's called Ishta Devata. The specific expressions or manifestations of the Lord. He is of course omniscient, omnipotent. He possesses all powers, he possesses everything. But our mind cannot visualize or comprehend Ishvara in its totality. How can you comprehend omniscience and omnipresence is beyond the mind. Mind is a very limited entity. Therefore, mind can visualize one single name and form and superimpose upon that the idea of Ishvara. That is how the Pujanam, Murti Pujanam, worshipping Ishvara in name and form came about. And so the concept of Ishta Devata. Ishta means chosen deity. That form which is chosen by me, for which I have reverence, which invokes in me a devotee. And there were so many devatas are given. So very often those who do not understand the meaning behind these forms and names think that Hinduism is miserable, so many gods are there. Our own children ask this question, why are there so many gods? See, Christianity is only one God, Islam is one God, this is one God. Why do we have so many gods? It is not so many gods, it's so many expressions of one God. We would explain our child, look, this is your mother, you call this person your mother. He says, yes. What does her mother call her? Oh, that's the daughter. What does the sister call her? Sister. So one woman is mother, daughter, sister, wife, grandchild, grandmother, friend, manager, madam, when these women work in hospitals and things like that, doctors. How many people are there? One person called by many names depending upon a standpoint. Depending upon what functions the person performs. These are all functional names. Mother is a functional name. Daughter is a functional name. Friend is a functional, depending on what function this person performs, what role she plays. And therefore, different people can relate to her differently in their own way and still relate to her. They can love her in a variety of ways. But for love, it is necessary to establish a relationship. Just a person may not invoke love in me, but my mother invokes a love, sister invokes a love, daughter invokes a love. And therefore, here people have different relationship with God. Somebody looks upon Ishvara as father, somebody looks upon Ishvara as mother, somebody looks upon Ishvara as friend, somebody looks upon Ishvara as master. So master-servant relationship, father-son relationship, or father-daughter, mother and son, mother and daughter. Ishvara is looked upon even as a child. So Vatsalya Bhava, look upon Ishvara as a child. It's very nourishing, you know. A person has an opportunity to express. It may be difficult to do that with the world, you know. With the real mother, it may be difficult perhaps. But this mother is a non-reacting mother, a non-demanding mother. This is one thing about Ishvara or Deva deity is non-reacting, non-demanding, easy to please. In India, they say about the wife, Patireva Parameshwaraha. For a wife, Pati or husband is Parameshwara. Then if she does it, she gets liberated in this lifetime. Difficult to please. It's not easy to please a person, you know. Because persons are demanding, complaining, finding fault, hurting you. Therefore, you need somebody who is not finding fault, who does not react, who does not reject you, who always accepts you regardless of what you are or how you are. When I feel accepted, when I feel comfortable, that's what we like. We generally avoid demanding people. People who make demands upon us, we are not comfortable. When a person makes demand upon me, means that I am not accepted as I am. I should change, I should do something in order to be acceptable. I always like when I am accepted without any demand. And that's altar. That's what Devata is, that's what Bhagavan is. And Lord Krishna always smiling, one good thing about him. All Devatas are smiling. So when if you offer food to your husband, and if there is too much salt, then there may be one reaction. But if you offer to Lord Krishna, he doesn't react. He keeps smiling. Always welcomes you, receives you. You feel welcome, received, comfortable. The idea is that is how an atmosphere is created when a devotee in you is invoked. So who is a Karma Yogi? Karma Yogi is a devotee of the Lord. When I can invoke the devotee from me, then my karma becomes a yoga. So pujanam, therefore pujanam is act of worship. Where there is an altar, there is a deity in a given form, and the many ways, of course, worship can be done. Meaning you may choose to have a murti, you can choose to have a form, a vigraha, an image. Or it can be a symbol. It can be a geometrical figure. In Vedic culture, Bhagavan is worshipped by in many ways, yantra, tantra, mantra. Pujanam, japaha, chintanam krama. So, Ramana Maharsi says that these acts of worship can be performed at 3 levels. Because we are performing actions at 3 levels. Kaya, vang, mana. We perform actions at the level of body. We perform actions at the level of speech. We perform actions at the level of mind. Kayikam, vachikam, manasam karma. However, of course, when you perform an act at the level of body, then mind is involved, speech also may be involved. When you perform an act of worship, then you go through a variety of steps. Dhyayami, avahayami, asanam samarpayami. I meditate upon him, I welcome him, offer him a seat. Padayoho, padyam samarpayami, I wash the feet. Argyam samarpayami, offer argya. Achamaniyam samarpayami, for washing the mouth. Snanam samarpayami, offer bath. Vastram samarpayami, offer garments. Abharanani gandhan samarpayami, offer the sandalwood. Abharanani samarpayami, offer the ornaments. Offer whatever you want to. He doesn't insist upon what you, it's your pleasure to offer. So here you can become an offerer, easily. So how you can invoke the spirit of a giver, an offerer? And good thing is that this God does not eat anything, therefore you can offer, well, it's going to come back to you. So when people prepare this Naivedya, they plan, how many people are there in the home and what do they like. That's not the right thing, but anyway. So if there are 5 children at home and then so many laddus are prepared, if Ganapati ate away some laddus, then perhaps next time you may not get laddus, or you may get just one laddu, that's all. But he does not eat. And he still eats, supposedly. So, archanam, offer flowers, uttering the names of the Lord. Pushpam, dhupam cha deepam tatha. Dhupa, the fragrance. Deepa, the lamp. Naivedyam, the food. Basically, you treat the deity as you treat a very revered guest in your home. As you treat a very revered guest. And so, in the olden days, this was the tradition that generally people come, they walked a long distance, so you wash the feet to relieve the fatigue. Offer him bath, making comfortable, offer him all his needs in terms of garments, etc., garland, offer him food. And the food goes according to what every devata has the different likes and dislikes. Because they are looked upon as live persons, they are not looked upon merely as an image. So those who worship, they look upon them as live things. Sometimes they converse with them, sometimes fight with them also. Slowly you start becoming possessive. And therefore you think that he's supposed to do, how come you're not doing this for me, how come you're not doing that for me? It's developing an intimate relationship. And so those who perform puja every day, they feel today, Lala, our Devata seems to be happy today. And today is not like this, Swamiji. Today this little Lord Krishna did not accept that flower. He did not like this garment. He did not. That's how you feel anyway. It may be all imagination, but what is important is the devotee is doing all this. Important is that you are a devotee. They may be crazy people. But all fellows who love are crazy anyway. Our Swamiji emphasizes puja, but these days I find him emphasizing puja a lot. Act of worship is a very, very important thing. And so the food that is offered depends upon the devata to whom you offer food. Everybody doesn't like everything, So Lord Krishna may like butter, Ganapati likes modakam, the Devi likes payasam, Lord Shiva may like laddus. Thus, different deities like different kinds of food, different kinds of garments, different kinds of flowers, different kinds of leaves. And so Lord Vishnu or his incarnation, they like tulasi leaf. Lord Shiva and his parivar likes the bilva leaf. I mean, you can go crazy with this. This flower can't be offered here. This flower cannot be on this day. Offer this flower on. So you can make it as elaborate as you want. A puja need not become too complicated if you do not want it, but you can make it, because this is your means or a setup to express your affection or your love. So how when you love your child, how you fondle them, and how you offer all different things. And therefore, there are people who spend hours together in performing pujas. There are people whose only occupation is puja, whole day. So the whole day they think of the deity. The little Lord Krishna is there. It is winter time, he'll feel cold, and therefore a shawl is offered. A heater is placed beside him. You put him to sleep at night and wake him up in the morning. You think that the fellow is crazy or something? That's what people do. When you go to their home, they take you to their puja room and show you, see Swamiji. But I say, where is God? Where is Bhagavan? Oh, he is right now sleeping. Means you can't have darshan. So this pujanam, that way, is an excellent means of establishing a bond with deity. And that's how the devotee in the person is invoked. That's the most important thing. So which mantra is the best? No mantra is best and nothing is best. Everything is good. Whatever invokes the devotee in you is best for you. Gayatri mantra is the best, but if it doesn't do anything to you, then what is, if simple Ramana, if name that invokes, that's the best for you. But Swami, nothing happens to me, nobody invokes anything in me. That also is a problem. Then we have to prepare ourselves, meaning that we also require to prepare, and therefore, in fact, it is recommended how to invoke the devotee, how to invoke the devotion. The Narad Bhakti Sutra says that one teacher says that puja is a way of discovering devotee, one says katha. So listen to the glories of the Lord, sing His glories. All of these are conducive to invoking the devotee. People do all this. Meaning that if there is no feeling for any form of Bhagavan and you want, if you don't want, then of course there is no, but suppose there is a value that I should have devotion and I find that I don't have much of it, then you can deliberately do things which will invoke the devotee. Pujanam is of course one of them. Pujanam japaha chintanam kramat. When you perform the act of puja, then the whole personality is involved, and that's why Swamiji seems to like it the most, because the limbs are also involved. While also, for example, offering bath to the deity, you recite variety of stotras, a variety of mantras. While bathing Lord Shiva, you recite the Rudram. For different deities, while bathing Lord Vishnu or his incarnation, you recite Purusha Suktam. While offering puja to Devi, you recite Sri Suktam. So all these puja paddhatis are all developed. How to perform the worship, these are all pretty well developed and available to us. And you can make the puja as elaborate as you want. Or on different occasions you can do different things. When Shivratri is there, the special day of Lord Shiva, at that time you can offer 100,008 flowers. Normally we are offering 108 flowers, that time you can offer 1008 flowers. So thus there are special days for different devatas. Ekadashi, the 11th day of the lunar calendar also, the 15th day, the full moon day. For Ganesha, the Chaturthi, for Devi, the Ashtami, for Lord Vishnu, the Ekadashi, for Lord Shiva also Ekadashi, etc., etc. Pujanam, the act of worship performed at the level of body, at the level of soul. Kaya vang manah. Kaya means body, vak means speech, manah means mind. Kaya muttamam. The worship performed at the level of this body, level of speech, level of mind, uttamam. Kramat uttamam, meaning that in that order, there so each following one is superior to the previous one. Meaning that an act of worship performed at the level of speech is superior to, meaning more beneficial than the act of worship performed at the level of limbs. An act of worship performed at the level of mind is even superior to the act performed at the level of speech. Because each subsequent one requires more concentration. When I am performing puja, at that time my mind has a scope of wandering over a large field. So it's easy, relatively easy to focus the mind because the mind has a large field to wander or to travel. When it comes to action at the level of speech, then the limbs are not involved, only speech is involved. So japaha, you recite the name, you recite the stotra, you recite a hymn. That gives you less scope of wandering as compared to puja. In the oral worship, the scope for the mind to wander or mind to travel is much less, and therefore it requires a greater concentration. And when it comes to worship at the level of mind, well, that the scope of the mind has been much narrowed down, and therefore it requires much more concentration. So we can say that each previous step is a preparation for the following step. Meaning that the puja performed at the level of limbs becomes the preparation for the worship at the level of speech. That becomes preparation for worship at the level of mind. It is not that we can only do one thing, you can do everything. Meaning that in a given session, perform the puja for a while, then allow certain time for the worship at the level of speech, allow some time for meditation or worship at the level of mind. Pujanam, japaha, chintanam. Pujanam, the worship at the level of limbs. Japaha, the worship at the level of speech. And chintanam at the level of mind. Chintanam means thinking. The worship at the level of mind. Kramat uttamam. It is uttamam, superior in that order. It is like this boy trying to learn riding a bicycle. When you are learning to ride a bicycle, in the beginning you fall down quite often. Your friend helps you to learn riding bicycle, so he holds you and promises to hold you and then releases you, and then you fall down. But that's how you learn. In the beginning, you are very shaky, you can't maintain that balance. But more and more practice we do, slowly you become more and more adept maintaining now balance. And with one hand, now I can carry a milk pot in one hand, and I can also control my bicycle with another hand. And then there are heroes who leave both the hands and ride their bicycles. Or first a tricycle, then a bicycle, then in the circus that fellow rides with one wheel on the rope. So that's how a person becomes more and more adept. Therefore, the three levels of worship are suggested here. Kaya, Vāng, Mana, the body, the speech and the mind. In that level, it is superior. Each following one is superior to the previous one. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.